They told you ghosting is cruel, an act of cowardice. What if they lied? What if that silence you're so afraid of isn't an act of weakness, but a calculated move of ultimate strength? We're taught to crave closure, but the truth is far darker and far more empowering. Stay with me as we uncover why the unspoken exit is a hidden superpower. Closure talks are a performance. Ghosting is an authentic act of disinterest. The closure talk is a piece of social theater, not a genuine exchange of truth. Each person arrives with a script. The one ending things plays the reluctant executioner, carefully choosing words to minimize their own perceived cruelty and preserve their social standing. The other plays the victim, seeking a final monologue to display their pain and elicit guilt. It's a transaction based on image management. The words spoken, "You deserve better," "I'm not ready," are social lubricants designed to soften the blow for the ego of the speaker, not the receiver. Ghosting, in its cold silence, refuses to participate in this charade. It is the raw, unfiltered expression of complete disinterest. Psychologically, it is an action perfectly aligned with the internal feeling. There is no cognitive dissonance, no lie, no carefully crafted narrative to uphold. There is only absence. And that absence is the most honest message possible. It is the brutal, unvarnished truth delivered without apology or performance. A rare act of authenticity in a world built on polite fictions. It denies the other person a stage to perform their emotional drama and guilt trip you. The closure conversation is rarely about understanding. It is a power play disguised as a request for empathy. It provides a stage for the rejected party to unleash a carefully calibrated emotional arsenal: tears, accusations, nostalgic reminiscing, and strategic displays of vulnerability. These are not genuine expressions of pain, but tactical maneuvers designed to induce guilt and shame. The psychological objective is to make the cost of leaving so high that you reverse your decision, not out of renewed desire, but out of emotional exhaustion and a sense of obligation. Ghosting dismantles this stage. By refusing to attend the performance, you deny them their weapons. There is no audience for their guilt-tripping soliloquy. You are not present to absorb their manufactured drama or be worn down by their emotional siege. It is a preemptive strike against psychological warfare. This isn't about being cruel. It's about recognizing that you are being invited to a battle you can only lose, and wisely choosing not to show up. It's a declaration that your emotional well-being is not up for debate. The idea of denying someone a stage for their drama. Have you ever felt that pull? Let me know in the comments if you believe closure is an obligation or a trap. But don't go anywhere, because the truth we're building towards, number 11, is the one that dismantles everything you've been taught about your own importance. It's the reason they're terrified of you learning this. Ghosting is the ultimate act of emotional and temporal efficiency. Breakup conversations are a resource drain. From a purely logical standpoint, the closure conversation is a fundamentally poor investment. It demands a significant expenditure of two finite, non-renewable resources: your time and your emotional energy. Consider the process: the mental preparation, the scheduling of the meeting, the exhausting emotional performance, the inevitable follow-up questions, the lingering psychic debris. This is a high-cost, zero-return activity. The outcome is already decided. The conversation does not change the fact that the connection is terminated. Ghosting, conversely, is the epitome of efficiency. It is a single, decisive action that achieves the desired outcome with minimal expenditure. It treats your focus and emotional well-being as the valuable assets they are. In a world of infinite demands on your attention, continuing to allocate resources to a failed project is irrational. Ghosting isn't an act of malice. It is an act of ruthless self-preservation and strategic resource allocation. It is the silent, efficient liquidation of a non-performing asset, freeing up capital for future, more profitable ventures. The demand for closure is a narcissistic need to have the final word, not a genuine search for understanding. Let's dissect the plea for closure for what it truly is, a sophisticated disguise for a primal, narcissistic impulse. A healthy ego can process rejection through introspection. A narcissistic one perceives silence not as information, but as an intolerable insult, a denial of their perceived importance. The demand for a final conversation is a demand for relevance. The goal isn't to comprehend your perspective, it is to challenge it, to debate it, to force you to defend your decision, thereby recentering the narrative around their feelings and their supposed value. This isn't a search for truth, it's a demand for narrative control. They seek to co-opt your final act, inserting their own dialogue to soften the blow to their ego. Ghosting thwarts this psychological coup. It is a refusal to grant them that final, self-serving scene. It communicates with brutal clarity that their role in your story is over, and they are not entitled to an epilogue. Ghosting is a primal survival instinct, quietly abandoning a failed investment to conserve energy for a better one. Strip away the layers of modern social conditioning, and you find a raw, evolutionary impulse. Your ancient brain is not concerned with politeness. It operates on a ruthless calculus of energy expenditure and potential return. A connection that no longer serves your growth, happiness, or advancement is a failed investment. To this primal mind, it is a barren hunting ground. The logical, instinctual response is not to hold a ceremony for the land that no longer yields food, but to quietly move on to more fertile territory. Announcing your departure loudly is evolutionarily counterintuitive. It invites conflict, drains precious energy, and wastes time that could be spent securing a more viable future. Ghosting is the modern equivalent of this silent, efficient migration. It is the organism recognizing a net loss and cutting that loss without fanfare to conserve its most vital resources, time, emotion, and focus, for an opportunity with a higher probability of success. It is not malice, it is survival. Forcing a closure talk is an attempt to make you do their emotional processing for them. Ghosting forces radical self-reliance. The demand for a final conversation is a subtle but potent act of emotional delegation. The rejected party is, in effect, outsourcing their psychological labor. They are unable or unwilling to sit with the discomfort of rejection and the blow to their ego. So they demand that you, the agent of that discomfort, guide them through it. They want you to absorb their anger, validate their pain, and co-author a comforting narrative that preserves their sense of self-worth. You are cast in the role of an unwilling, unpaid therapist, tasked with healing a wound you were required to inflict. Ghosting is the ultimate refusal of this emotional servitude. By providing nothing but silence, you sever this parasitic cord. You are enforcing a critical boundary, stating implicitly, your emotions are your own responsibility. This forces them into a state of radical self-reliance. They must learn to soothe their own anxieties and find answers within themselves, because you have made it unequivocally clear that you will not provide them. It is a harsh but powerful catalyst for true emotional maturity. The closure you receive is a social fiction. It's a carefully crafted script designed to soften a brutal truth, leaving you with more questions than answers. The person offering closure is not a truth teller. They are a public relations agent managing their own exit. The words they offer are not a window into their soul, but a carefully constructed smokescreen. Phrases like, "It's not you, it's me," or "You deserve someone who can give you what you need," are verbal anesthetics. They are designed to sedate the situation, to prevent a messy scene, and most importantly, to cast the speaker in a compassionate, noble light. This socially sanctioned fiction is fundamentally more cruel than silence. It seeds confusion and false hope. The recipient is left to dissect these hollow platitudes for weeks, searching for hidden meanings and loopholes where none exist. The script is intentionally ambiguous, leaving the door open just enough to avoid being labeled the villain. Ghosting, by contrast, removes all ambiguity. The absence of words is a singular, powerful truth. It offers no script to analyze, no false hope to cling to. The fiction of a gentle breakup is a poison that prolongs the agony. The silence is a clean, surgical cut. Silence is the most powerful negotiation tactic. Ghosting leaves no room for argument, bargaining, or emotional manipulation. You retain all the power. A breakup conversation is not a discussion. It is a hostile negotiation. The moment you state your intent to leave, you enter a psychological battlefield where the other party's sole objective is to reverse your decision. They will deploy a full arsenal of tactics. Bargaining, "I can change." Debate, "Your reasons are flawed." And potent emotional leverage, tears, guilt, nostalgia. Every word you speak becomes ammunition they can turn against you, a concession they can exploit. To engage in this dialogue is to willingly cede power and open your decision up for appeal. Ghosting is the strategic refusal to enter this battlefield. It is a unilateral declaration that the negotiation is over before it begins. There is no argument to counter, no bargain to refuse, no emotional display to endure. Silence creates a void that their manipulations cannot penetrate. It is the ultimate expression of an unshakable position. You are not being avoidant, you are being decisive. You are preserving the integrity of your choice by making it absolute and non-negotiable, retaining all control. Society demonizes ghosting because it breaks the unwritten social contract that you owe others an explanation for your choices. You don't. The collective outrage against ghosting is rooted in a flawed, collectivist premise that your autonomy is conditional upon the approval and understanding of others. Society posits a social contract that dictates you are obligated to perform emotional labor for anyone with whom you've had a connection, however fleeting. You must justify your departure, package it in a palatable way, and manage their feelings about your decision. This is a subtle form of psychological enslavement. It suggests that your time, your emotional energy, and your private reasoning are public property. Ghosting is a radical act of sovereignty. It is a declaration that you are the sole arbiter of your own life and associations. You owe no one a committee meeting to ratify your personal choices. The visceral, negative reaction to ghosting isn't about politeness. It's the system's shock at an individual acting with complete, unapologetic freedom, refusing to pay the emotional tax demanded by a contract they never willingly signed. The message is the silence. Any words used to explain the departure are redundant noise that obscures the simple, hard truth. They don't want you. Language is often a tool of obfuscation, not clarification. In a breakup, words are used to dilute a brutally simple truth. The myriad of excuses, timing, career focus, personal issues, are all just static, designed to cloud the core message. The underlying reality is singular and absolute, a lack of desire. No combination of words can communicate this as purely or as effectively as silence. Absence is not a lack of a message, it is the message. It is the raw, unadulterated data point that the connection is severed. Adding a verbal explanation is like trying to describe the color black to a blind person. The words are a clumsy, inadequate, and ultimately unnecessary translation of a self-evident reality. The silence is clean, it is definitive, and it leaves no room for misinterpretation. It strips away the comforting lies and forces a confrontation with the only piece of information that truly matters. Your presence is no longer required or desired. Everything else is just noise. The most valuable closure isn't a conversation. It's the cold, ego-shattering realization that you were insignificant enough to be deleted without a word. This brutal lesson in your own replaceability is a more powerful catalyst for growth than any gentle lie. This is the nuclear truth that society medicates you to avoid. The desire for a closure talk is the ego's desperate plea for significance, a need to believe you mattered enough to warrant a formal dismissal. Ghosting denies you this comfort and instead delivers a far more valuable, albeit excruciating, gift. It forces you to confront the ultimate existential horror. You were not a main character in their story. You were a footnote, a temporary placeholder so utterly disposable that a conscious act of removal was deemed an unnecessary expenditure of energy. This is not an insult. It is the most profound lesson you can ever learn. The pain of being erased without ceremony shatters the delusion of your own indispensability. It is a baptism by fire in the reality of your own replaceability. This cold, ego-annihilating realization is the only true closure. It burns away all narcissistic illusions and forces you to build your self-worth on a foundation independent of anyone else's validation. It is a brutal, terrifying, and absolutely necessary awakening. You made it to the end because you're not afraid of the cold. You prefer a brutal truth to a comforting lie. This is your power. Acknowledge it. Use it. For more truths that cut through the noise, subscribe and join the few who dare to see. 11 Dark Truths. See clearly.